7 o'clock. Welcome to our Board of Education meeting. Public portion of the meeting begins. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Business Administrator Board Secretary has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Herald News, the Record, and filed with the Clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr?
Here.
Ms. Goff? Here. Ms. Everett? Here. Dr. Morrell? Here. Mr. Toulouse?
Here.
Mr. Reicher?
Here.
Mr. Pizarro?
Here.
Mr. Turco?
Here.
Mr. Polito?
Here. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments. During the first opportunity, early on the agenda, the meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to adjournment, and citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and or directly related to the operation of the school district. Persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, state their name, address, and subject matter. Comments and questions shall be addressed to the board president or the presiding officer and shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. The board may or may not respond to issues raised by members of the public at the time they are raised, but will provide a response if and when appropriate. Persons participating via YouTube may submit questions through our Board of Education email address at hawthorneboe@hawthorne.k12.nj.us, which is available on our district website. When submitting questions via email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and your question. We will do our best to answer all questions in the order in which they are received. If for some reason we are unable to answer a question, someone from the district will respond using the email address provided. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during this public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with district policy, the board will not officially comment or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm that the matter has been first brought to the attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issue. Public be heard, agenda items only. Seeing no one, will close the portion of the meeting. Approval of minutes. Entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for public and private for May 11, 2021, and for a special meeting May 26, 2021. Motion by Mr. Pizarro. And second by Ms. Goff. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Everett?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Toulouse?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Pizarro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Polito?
Yes. We have no correspondence. We'll move on to our reports. Ms. Carini, you are last and final report from your end.
Is this one? Okay, yeah. Hi, this is my last report, but since there's such an audience today, I'm a junior here at Hawthorne High School. I'm Allie Perini, and this is loud, sorry. I'm the student council representative for the Board of Education. So yeah, without further ado, here's my report. Good evening, everyone. Since our last meeting, HHS has been bustling with activity throughout the end of May and into June as our school year comes to a close. On Thursday, May 20th, the art department hosted our annual art show in the courtyard. The event featured art across all levels while spotlighting senior artists as well as live music from the jazz band. Teachers had the opportunity to sign their classes up to attend, and students as well as outside visitors were able to enjoy the beautiful art and hard work of our talented students. A special thanks to Ms. Russo, Ms. Ambrosio, and Mr. DiLeonardo from our art department who made the event possible. Later that evening, the music department hosted their spring concert on the football field, featuring music from our school's jazz band, concert band, and chorus. The music selection included hits from The Greatest Showman and The Mandalorian, among others, and was a success for the musicians and parents alike. A special thanks to Mr. Williams, our music director, who forefronted the event and led the musicians to success, highlighting their acquired skills developed throughout the school year. Also at the end of May, our Creative Writing Club, led by Miss Red, hosted Poetry Day. This event on May 24th in the courtyard featured written and illustrated poetic works by the club members. Visitors were able to explore their own creative writing skills at the event through blackout poetry, mass designing, and several other activities, while also enjoying live music from club member and musician Estelle Barbieri. Last week, our school hosted our annual Senior Scholarship Night. The event included over 50 different scholarships from various donors who generously decided to sponsor future educational endeavors for our senior class. The event took place here at the Hawthorne High School in the auditorium, and each senior recipient and their 2 guests were in attendance. The event could not have happened or been so successful without the work of our guidance counselor, Miss Zach, who coordinated such a special event, so thanks to her and the administration and parents for working together ensuring proper recognition of our senior scholars whose hard work inevitably paid off. The Student Council is hosting voting for the upcoming school year's executive board members tomorrow, Wednesday, June 9th. Students who are in person are able to vote at stations set up around the school during or directly after the school day, and remote students are also able to participate in voting by emailing Ms. Russo their ballot selections. In Bears sports news, our spring sports are coming to an end as we approach the end of the school year. The golf team finished up their season with a winning record throughout their matches and looks forward to a very successful season next year with returning all-county golfers Meadow Cigarella and Rebecca Guerin. The lacrosse team also finished up their season 2 weeks ago, including a final win against Parsippany at home. The baseball and softball teams continue to improve as their season progresses, recording several wins against divisional opponents. Both the softball and baseball teams will finish up their seasons this week. The boys and girls track teams have had massive success this season, including at the NJIC Colonial Division Championships, where the girls captured a complete win and the boys captured a share of the win. County champs from the girls team included Brianna Andrioli, Sydney Hansen, Sabrina DiFilippo, and Ella Sachs. This past weekend on Friday and Saturday, the teams also continued this pattern of success at the NJSIAA North 1 Group 2 State Sectional Championship. At states, the girls team placed 3rd overall. In the 100 meter, Brianna Andrioli took 1st and Sabrina DiFilippo took 4th. In the 200 meter, Andrioli took 1st and DiFilippo took 3rd. In the 400 meter, Sydney Hansen took 4th place. In the 100 meter hurdles, Leah Alves took 2nd place. In the javelin, Andrioli took 3rd, and in shot put, Isabella Robinson took 2nd place. The 4x100 relay team also won 1st place overall and recorded a new school record. At the championship, the boys team took 7th place overall. Wins included Eric Mendoza in 4th and 5th place in the 100 and 400 meter, Jason Harmer in 3rd place in the 800 and 1600 meter, Michael Palmer in 2nd, and Miguel Melendez in 4th for the triple jump, Nasser Coutinho in 5th place for discus, and the 4x100 relay team in 6th place. Congratulations to both our spring track teams for their huge continued success and growth throughout the season. In the upcoming week, additional senior events will be taking place, including prom on June 10th, the senior sports ceremony on June 13th, and Superstars on June 14th. As we come to a close for the 2020-21 school year, HHS is action-packed, and we look forward to the final culmination of a trying yet ultimately successful school year. That does it for my report, but just while I have everyone's attention real quick, I just want to say thank you so much to all the board members, Mr. Clavijo, Mr. Spirito, Mr. Doyle, who was the president when I first came, Ms. Engel. I was a little obviously nervous coming into this. Public speaking isn't exactly my thing, but everyone was just super welcoming, and I just appreciate it so much. And Tabor and the tech department for making all of our virtual board meetings happen. I'm just happy that we were able to come back and be in person, and I just want to say thank you so much.
Allison, thank you for your great reports and congratulations on your fine representation of the student council.
Thank you.
I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Spirito for his presentation and his reports.
Thank you so much. I think Ali said it all. I don't need to say anything. I do just have a couple of things to say, and then we're going to get to our presentations. It's so nice to see people here in the audience. I'm excited for tonight. A lot of special things, a lot of special awards to hand out tonight. But I do want to just comment on a couple of items that Ali mentioned. First of all, Mr. Williams and our outdoor spring concert. It's the first time we've ever had an outdoor spring concert. I thought it went really, really well. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to sit outside and listen to our kids play and sing, and they just do such a wonderful job with our students. Thanks to Mr. Williams and all of our students. I also want to congratulate our senior athletes. Ali mentioned all of the honors that our athletes have achieved this spring. It's been obviously a long and challenging year, but I think we've done a great job of providing an opportunity for our student athletes to participate from September all the way through June. Unfortunately, the weather hasn't cooperated at the end of the season here, and we've missed a few of our events last week into this week. But I just want to congratulate all of our coaches and our athletes. And finally, I want to congratulate all the seniors who received scholarships at our scholarship night last week. Such a nice event, and I want to thank all the donors who contribute to the future education of our students here at Hawthorne High School. So thank you to all of those people. I also would like to just take a moment to, as we close or come to the end of our school year, 8 days to go. As we close in on the end of the school year, I just want to take a moment to thank all of our teachers for their efforts this year. It has been a challenging year for everyone, but I think our teachers have done an outstanding job of adjusting from in-person to remote to back to in-person, virtual days and virtual afternoons. So I want to thank them for all of their efforts this year. I want to thank our parents for their support. I know, again, there's been a lot of changes. The guidance has changed as recently as yesterday, right? We continue to get changes in guidance, but the parents have been very accommodating and adjusted to our changes here at the school. So I want to thank our parents and, of course, our students who have done just a great job of following the guidelines that we've put in place here at the high school as well as our other schools. So just thank everybody for their support throughout the year. Again, it was a challenging year, but I think we've done a pretty good job of making the best of it. With that said, I want to, just talk about Allison for a second. I think she's done an outstanding job. She said public speaking is not her thing, but I have to disagree. I think she's done a heck of a job this year, public speaking and representing, which is the most important thing, right? Representing the students and staff here at Hawthorne High School. So I want to thank you, Ali, for everything you've done this year. We look forward. I know she's not leaving us. She has another year here at the high school. We're excited about that. She'll be one of our senior leaders for sure next year. But we look forward to watching her excel in her senior year here at the high school. And with that said, I want to read two things that we'd like to read and present to Allison. First, just this recognition, which is on our agenda. It just says Allison Perini has served as student representative to the board during the 2020-2021 school year. It is recommended that the board approve the following resolution of appreciation in honor of Allison. Whereas Allison has served as a student representative to the Board of Education during the 2020-2021 school year, and whereas it has been her responsibility to voice the student perspective to the board at their public meetings, and whereas she has been diligent and conscientious in attending the Board of Education meetings, and whereas she has conducted herself with poise and courtesy while listening attentively to many lengthy discussions pertaining to the governance of the school district, and whereas she has presented thoughtful and informative reports to the Board of Education on issues and events at Hawthorne High School, and whereas she is a member of the National Honor Society, serving as the Vice President this school year, and an Executive Board member of the Italian Honor Society, and whereas she has participated in the class cabinet, the Student Council as an Exec Board member, the Share Club as an Executive Board member, panel member for the HHS Peer Leaders, and the Team Lakota Club member. and whereas she has played varsity volleyball and as a lacrosse team manager. Now therefore, be resolved that the members of the Hawthorne Board of Education express their gratitude and appreciation to Allison Perini for her services to the student body and the Board of Education, and send her their best wishes for her success in all future endeavors. Great job, Allison. And finally, I'd like to present Allison with this certificate that says Certificate of Appreciation and Recognition of the Valuable Contribution made toward the cause of forwarding education in the Hawthorne community as the Hawthorne High School Student Council representative to the Board of Education for the 2020-2021 school year. Congratulations. Okay. Next, I am so happy to be able to honor our Governor Educators of the Year from last school year and this school year. And I want to just say, I wish we could have honored our last year's teachers last year because they deserve this recognition. But I'm glad, I guess it's better late than never, right, is what they say. But I'm glad you're all able to be here tonight. So with that said, we're going to get right to it. But first, I'd like to introduce Ms. Farkas, who's here from the Hawthorne Teachers Association.
I'm really happy to be here on behalf of the Hawthorne Teacher Association and the Executive Board. I want to thank Mr. Cerrito and the Board of Education, of course, for recognizing our recipients tonight. As we all know, all across the board, it was a very unique and strenuous year, without a doubt. Some struggles, but through it all, you found successes, and for all of you getting an award tonight is one big success. So, with gratitude and pride, as a colleague, as a friend, and as a representative of the association, congratulations to all of you. I'm really excited to hand these out to you tonight with Mr. Cerrito. That's it.
All right. So we're going to get right to it. So here's what we'd like to do. What we're going to do is we're going to work our way through our schools with last year's winner and this year's winner. We'll start with our high school. And I'm going to share just something that was written about each of our honorees tonight by their school principals. So just bear with me as I go through this, and we're going to start with our 2019-2020 Governor Educator of the Year from Hawthorne High School, Mr. Matt Corvo. So I'd like to just read it with great enthusiasm that I recommend Mr. Matt Corvo for County Teacher of the Year, for Governor Educator of the Year for the 1920 school year. Mr. Corvo is a social studies teacher at Hawthorne High School. He's one of the rare teachers that is not only very knowledgeable in this field, but also strives to continue his own learning by dedicating his own time to research outside the classroom. Mr. Corvo looks for new ways to share this knowledge and learning to get students more involved and to keep them engaged and interested. Mr. Corvo excels in the use of the latest teaching technology, taking classes himself to garner cutting-edge proficiency in teaching applications, and incorporating these trends into the classroom and challenging his students. Mr. Corvo is truly passionate about what he does. He teaches authentic learning not just for the test, and sets an admirable example for students, colleagues, and parents alike. I believe that he inspires the love of learning and the importance of creating lifelong learners. Congratulations, Mr. Matt Corvo. Come on up, Mr. Corvo. What we have for Mr. Corvo and all of our recipients is a certificate from the Board of Education. We also have certificates from the county office and from the state, and a plaque from the Hawthorne Teachers Association. And the 2020-2021 Governor Educator of the Year from Hawthorne High School is Mr. Ryan McMahon. So, Mr. McMahon, Hawthorne High School has benefited from one of its most dynamic, passionate, and effective teachers, Ryan McMahon, for 11 years. Ryan's abilities as a teacher and his involvement in professional development have been recognized in various ways, from improved test scores to being named king of pre-calculus among his students. His drive to push all boundaries for the benefit of all students is most impressive. Ryan sees what is good about an existing program and then immediately begins plotting steps to make it better. To make these improvements, there is no obstacle too great. Ryan reaches out to administrators, students, parents, and community members for support, and because his passion and conviction are so strong, no one yet has ever said no. With this energetic drive, Ryan has been the impetus behind a number of outstanding collaborative programs, projects, and activities. Since his first year here, Ryan has grown to be a leader of the math department, the advisor of the National Honor Society, the coach of the boys varsity soccer team, and the boys JV basketball team. His passion for teaching is clearly evident and recognized by his students and peers alike. Congratulations, Mr. Ryan McMahon. Okay, on to Lincoln Middle School. So, our 2019-2020 winner of the Governor Educator of the Year at Lincoln Middle School is Mrs. Laura Thomas. Mrs. Laura Thomas is an incredible and dedicated teacher. Mrs. Thomas currently teaches 6th and 8th grade mathematics at Lincoln Middle School in the Hawthorne School District. Mrs. Thomas embraces all children. Her style of teaching is a true balance of all learning styles, which allows her top students to reach new potentials and her struggling students to gain more confidence in their mathematics abilities. Mrs. Thomas truly fosters a student-centered classroom and often plans multiple activities daily that students complete in stations. Mrs. Thomas also puts forth tremendous effort to meet the social and emotional needs of the students in her mathematics classroom as well. Mrs. Thomas starts her classroom off daily by discussing an inspirational quote. In addition, Mrs. Thomas has incorporated flexible seating and other methodologies to provide choice to her students in her classroom. Mrs. Thomas is an authentic teacher that not only strives to build the mathematical knowledge of Lincoln Middle School students, but also create a classroom in which children feel they are loved and cared for. Mrs. Thomas is certainly a model teacher within Lincoln Middle School, and we are honored to name her Teacher of the Year for Lincoln Middle School. Congratulations, Mrs. Laura Thomas. Okay, and our Governor Educator of the Year from Lincoln Middle School for 2020-2021 is Mrs. Jackie Monero. Mrs. Monero is always striving for excellence in her classroom. When entering her room 211, you never know what to expect. She brings creativity and passion daily. Her lessons are fun and students are engaged. Mrs. Monero is always willing to try something new to inspire and excite the students about learning. In addition, Mrs. Monero develops great relationships with her students and wants them all to succeed. Her mission is to create strong readers and writers at Lincoln Middle School. A parent writes, her expectations for students are extremely high and she expects nothing short of excellence. She has fostered a love of learning in my child and in all of her students. Mrs. Monero challenges her students with rigorous and meaningful assignments and establishes and nurtures positive relationships with them simultaneously. We are proud to recognize and honor Mrs. Monero as the Lincoln Middle School Governor Educator of the Year for 2021. Congratulations. Okay, on to Jefferson Elementary School. We're going to start with our 2019-2020 Governor Educator of the Year, Mrs. Jennifer King. So it says, Mrs. Jennifer King is an exceptional kindergarten teacher. She welcomes her students as her own children from the very first day of school, and I can attest to that. She had 3 of my 4 children. So in addition to helping the children have a positive and fun experience, Mrs. King is consistently tinkering and adding new activities and ideas to her toolbox. We are so fortunate to have a kindergarten teacher like Mrs. King who takes the lead with our young learners and helps sprinkle creativity and fun throughout the Jefferson School community. So congratulations to our 2019-2020 Governor Educator of the Year, Mrs. Jennifer King. Okay, and our 2020-2021 Governor Educator of the Year from Jefferson Elementary School is Mrs. Laura Mazzacca. It says, Mrs. Mazzacca has done a tremendous job navigating the challenges of this unique school year. She continuously finds creative ways to meet the needs of her students. Additionally, she has been a helpful resource to her colleagues for new ideas and strategies, which is essential to a well-run and dynamic school program. Finally, Mrs. Mazzacca is an active member of several school committees and an essential part of the Jefferson school community. We would like to congratulate Mrs. Mazzacca on this well-deserved honor, so congratulations, Mrs. Laura Mazzacca. Okay, on to Roosevelt Elementary School and our 2019-2020 Governor Educator of the Year, Mrs. Sarah Today. Mrs. Sarah Today is an exemplary speech therapist. She excels in the area of collaboration with her colleagues and is a role model for her students. She is a supremely positive person who brings a high level of interactive learning to her lessons. Her efforts to support the entire Roosevelt community are especially apparent each year during Better Speech and Hearing Month, when Mrs. Today supplies extra resources, guidance, and support for all stakeholders. Additionally, she's a regular contributor to the school RTI committees and attends various PTO functions. We would like to congratulate Mrs. Today on this well-deserved honor, so congratulations, Mrs. Sarah Today. And our 2020-2021 Governor Educator of the Year from Roosevelt Schools, Mrs. Jackie Drexler. Mrs. Drexler is a dedicated teacher who cares about the well-being of her students. She provides highly effective instruction on a daily basis and is often looking for new ways to inspire her students. Her lessons reveal a teacher who is deeply knowledgeable about the academic aspects of the curriculum. In addition, Mrs. Drexler brings a contagious charisma and positive attitude to the classroom, which results in an eager and inviting learning environment. Mrs. Drexler often goes beyond her assigned duties in order to have a positive impact on the greater school community. She's a regular attendee at PTO activities and can often be seen at the extracurricular events of her students. Her collaboration with colleagues is exemplary, and she is often selected as a unifying voice. Mrs. Drexler is a member of several school committees, including the School Improvement Panel, Centennial Celebration Committee, and Social Club. It is for these reasons and more that I believe Mrs. Drexler's recognition is well-deserved. Congratulations, Mrs. Jackie Drexler. All right, and last but certainly not least, our Governor Educator of the Year recipients from Washington Elementary School. And we'd like to start with our 2019-2020 winner, which is Ms. Raquel Pisacreta. Ms. Raquel Pisacreta has been at Washington School for 9 years. I guess it's 10 years now, right? Because it's a year late. She began as Mrs. Spinelli's student teacher and transitioned into full-time teacher when Mrs. Spinelli became principal. Ms. Pisacreta brings creativity and innovation to class lessons. She keeps her students actively engaged by using instructional strategies that are student-centered, content-rich, and hands-on. Ms. Pisacreta embraces technology as a way to expand students' learning opportunities in all subject areas, such as visiting places and meeting people through virtual field trips. You're ahead of your time, see that? Ms. Pisacreta has an excellent rapport with her students. She maintains a classroom in which each student is valued. Her classroom culture is one of respect, kindness, and understanding. Ms. Pisacreta is an active participant in several Washington school committees, as well as the Hawthorne High School cheerleading coach for 5 years. Ms. Pisacreta knows the importance of ongoing collaboration and effectively uses collaboration with colleagues as a tool to maximize learning for all students. Ms. Pisacreta radiates a passion for teaching and is a true professional. Congratulations, Ms. Raquel Pisacreta. And finally, our Washington School Governor Educator of the Year for 2020-2021, Mrs. Bislira Bajrami. Mrs. Bajrami is a caring and compassionate educator who is committed to doing what is best for children. She maintains a classroom in which each student is valued and encouraged to set goals for themselves. Mrs. Bajrami makes student safety and well-being a priority. Mrs. Bajrami knows the importance of ongoing professional development and collaboration with colleagues. She is willing to engage in innovative educational strategies that serve to promote academic growth, heighten student interest in lesson content, and nourish emotional well-being. Mrs. Bajrami is a productive member of the Washington Schools Title I Annual School Planning Team, School Safety Committee, and Pandemic Response Team. We are so fortunate to have Mrs. Bajrami at Washington School and thank her for her exceptional dedication to the teaching profession. Congratulations, Mrs. Bajrami. So in closing, I just want to once again just congratulate all of our recipients. I want to thank our winners from last year for your patience. I appreciate you being here with us tonight, but you are all well deserving, and I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to truly and properly honor you at tonight's meeting. So thank you all for being here. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Clavillo. Oh, we could take a picture, sure, but you want to?
Sure, absolutely. Sure, yeah. After the picture, we'll take a short recess. Congratulations to everybody on behalf of the school board. Thank you.
All the winners, I know you can't hold everything, so probably the best is to come up here and take a picture all in the front here. Okay? Yeah, of course. Yeah, bring up your, why don't you bring up the certificate at least, something, right? So you should hold up the certificate.
If I stand here while I come up in the view? Am I okay? Oh yeah? Are you pausing? Oh no, I should get them. Hi everybody. Will I be in the dark? Did we get everybody? I know. Everybody's there? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. All right, big smiles. Everybody ready? Big smiles.
Front and kneel like Little League.
A little late to check now. Okay.
Coach, I'll see you in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Congrats, Lord.
right, so we're resuming the meeting, turning the floor back to Mrs. Burrito.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Clavijo. Just a couple of items, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Trebona. But I would like to share that in honor of Pride Month, which is this month, I would like to read something shared by Mr. Barbosa, who is our GSA Club Advisor. And this is what he asked me to share with the board and the community tonight. And he says, as the GSA Gay Straight Alliance Club Advisor, I want to thank the board and the community for their support in creating a safe space for students to express their individuality and gender identity without consequence or judgment. We celebrate Pride Month every June to recognize the Stonewall riots in New York City and to acknowledge the ongoing process of attaining equal rights for the LGBTQ+ community. I was honored to be present to see the Pride flag raised at the Hawthorne Rescue Building and to witness the official proclamation of Pride Month by Mayor Goldberg. I commend Hawthorne and the Hawthorne Public Schools for recognizing all LGBTQ+ members of this community, Mr. Barbosa. And he is our club advisor, and I just wanted to share that on his behalf, and I just want to say that the district supports Mr. Barbosa and our GSA club members, and we support them in their future, going forward with the future of this GSA club. I also, just quickly, I know Ali mentioned all of our end-of-year events. Just want to remind everyone that we have our senior prom coming up on June 10th, this Thursday, our senior athletic brunch on June 13th, Sunday, our 8th grade Macalusos dance on June 14th at Macalusos, and our graduation ceremonies Thursday, June 17th for Lincoln Middle School, and Friday, June 18th for Hawthorne High School. We're going to pray for good weather so that we can have those events both take place here on our athletic field here at Hawthorne High School. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Trebona, who will now present information on the Hawthorne Public Schools plan for safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of service. This new plan is a requirement under the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, Section 2001. So she's going to present the plan for board and public comment, and then the board will be approving this plan later in the month. So, Dr. Trebona, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I like the smaller crowd, so I'm quite happy here. So we figured where we are tonight, it was easier if I just gave you a copy of the PowerPoint or the presentation so that we didn't have to kind of disrupt ourselves. I gave some to our public that is here. I want to give you a little overview. I know for the past couple of months you have been approving a lot of stuff, first with CARES money, then with ESSER 2 money. Now you've heard at committee meetings we talked about ESSER 3 funding and this ARP, which is basically the American Rescue Plan. So if you look back in March of 2021, the federal government released the American Rescue Plan Act, which basically gave a certain amount of money to different states, which would then be delineated to individual LEAs or local education agencies to put additional money forth to get kids back into schools, what they're calling a safe return to in-person learning, as well as work towards mitigating that learning loss, or what they're calling that gaps that may have presented over what will be 18 months when we bring ourselves back to September of 2021. Part of that plan, Section 2001I, has some requirements that the state of New Jersey released to us back in April, and then for more guidance on May 24th. What this did was it gave us a third subset of money known as ARP ESSER 3 funds. We're still working through, there was allocation set forth, which you will be approving in the future. But one of the first steps of getting these ESSER 3 funds is to kind of have a safe return to in-person learning plan, and something called the continuity of services. It's developed now, but what you need to realize is that this plan is going to be a working document all summer. Because as we know, literally by the minute, the State Department of Health, the Governor's Office, the Department of Education, they're releasing information which changes everything that we're working in here. Part of the plan is that it's supposed to involve public comment and stakeholder involvement. This is basically our public presentation of the initial draft of this plan. We are then going to share it on the district website, both a copy of this presentation as well as a copy of the actual plan on the DOE template. And we are going to seek public comment for a week. Public will be able to look through this plan, watch this presentation, review the copy of the presentation, and then email their questions, their comments to our Hawthorne BOE at hawthorne.k12.nj.us email. From there, what we will do is we will sit as an administrative team. We will look at that feedback, that comment from the public, and we will make revisions if necessary from there. So also comment from you guys tonight if there are questions. After that, I will ask on June 22nd for the board to approve the submission of this plan. Once you approve that on June 22nd, we can upload it to New Jersey Homeroom in our fashion and submit it to the state for approval, which it must be done by June 24th. What they do then is from there, there's a second part of this, which is the ESSER 3 funding. And ESSER 3 funding will then, we can then start looking at how we're going to spend that next subset of money. money. So my estimation is that we will be approving those allocations again on the June 22nd meeting, where we can start looking and having some more discussions about where those funds and how we're going to distribute those funds for some of these things that we're talking about in this plan. As I said, the plan that I'm going to reveal tonight, which is very quick, I'm going to go through it very quickly, is based on what the current guidance is today. I will be honest with you, we adjusted some of it last night based on the recommendations for masking and what happened with masking. So you'll see in the masking part of it, we kind of went very generic at the moment, not really sure where we're going to be. So like I said, the plan right now that we're looking at is if we were to return to in-person learning tomorrow, June 9th, and that is how all these guidelines and all these decisions were made. There's 3 sections to the plan. The first one is maintaining health and safety. The second one is ensuring continuity of services, and the third one is public comment. The first section, which is maintaining health and safety, is similar to the road back. The DOE now calls it the road forward, and there's a separate guidance coming out from them in how we should plan for what they're saying coming back to in-person learning. My sense of it is, it's how are we extending in-person learning, because we've had in-person learning the whole time, which I'm very grateful for. So I think it's really important for us to see that our lens is looking at how are we going to go back to that normal full day, full lunches, full capacity, since we will be welcoming back our fully remote students. Part of this is because the governor did announce that there will be no option for remote learning next year. So our plan is back at our full capacity of individuals. There are A through H kind of subsets. Very generically, if you look at this, the board has a copy of both the presentation and the detailed plan, if you want to look through that. Universal and correct wearing of masks, we are going to go with whatever the guidance is on September, I'm not sure what our exact day is, I believe it's September 6th, 7th, when we welcome students back, 3rd, whatever. Whatever day we welcome students back and we welcome staff back on August 31st, that will be the guidance that we will use. Currently, right now, we looked at, in today's letter, that we are kind of being a little flexible due to the heat with our masking, that when we are in kind of stationary places doing our instruction, we are going to be able to remove our masks during the school day, but when we are arriving, dismissing, and when we are traveling about the building, we will have our masks on. We have lifted or relaxed the mask mandate for our outdoor activities due to the heat and the weather and our last coming days in June. If we stay where we are, I see that being the same in September upon our return. Physical distancing, again, since everything is based on what our numbers are currently in Hawthorne, what our numbers are in Passaic County, and what our numbers are in the state, we drive that decision based on the COVID-19 regional risk matrix. Those are the colors that we share with you each week, whether we're in the green, the yellow, the orange, or the red. The green and the yellow are what make us be able to be close to people relax physical distancing, and really feel like we have those normal classroom environments. We are currently in the yellow, almost in the green, where if you look at the numbers, any week now we could be in the green. Currently in Hawthorne, I think we only had 3 active cases, which has been phenomenal considering what our numbers were this fall and winter. Hand washing and respiratory etiquette, I think this has just become part of our norm now for all of our young individuals, is that we need to reinforce these good practices and these good habits for all of our students and staff. And we will work with the young ones to reinforce those skills, make sure that they wash their hands before snack, wash their hands after snack, teach them how to cover for any kind of respiratory etiquette, proper disposal of things. We will keep signs displayed, reminding people washing your hands, just proper respiratory etiquette. And I think, like we all said, this has just become part of the norm of what we're just used to, you know. Cleaning and maintaining our facilities, I think I really need to commend Mr. Chamberlain and his maintenance and custodial staff this year, because our buildings have been exceptional, and anything and any change that we have had, they have stepped up to the plate and never complained for us. So I'm confident that the way that we have been working has been successful. We have our daily cleanings. We're cleaning more common spaces, handrails, doorknobs, hallways, bathrooms on a more regular basis. We're using all of our EPA-approved disinfectants. We're using the sprayers. We have handheld sprayers. We have drag sprayers. Some of our teachers are using them for manipulatives and smaller group areas. So I see that this is not going to be an issue moving forward. We have done a lot with bringing in the air purifiers that have the HEPA filter, the mirror filter, and the UV light. Those will be maintained where they are. And we are working on a window project, which is going to correct a lot of the windows to make sure that we have adequate airflow moving through if we are still required to keep the windows open. Contact tracing, again, the guidance on that, we use the New Jersey Department of Health K-12 guidance that is set forth to us in consultation with our board physician, and when we need to, we touch base with the local health nurse in Hawthorne. And our nurses, again, should be commended on the work that they have done round the clock, 24 hours a day. Some of you may have even gotten calls from them, nights, weekends, holidays. They have worked tirelessly doing all of our contact tracing with our administrative team. If necessary, if we need to, we will just continue our practices. We will follow the guidelines set forth. And again, that's really driven by the number of cases in town and our regional risk matrix for how long we quarantine and how we kind of track people. Right now, it's still the 6 feet for 15 minutes. So if that changes, we will change our guidance, but currently that is what we are using. If you go on to the next slide, diagnostic and screening testing. This is really interesting. So if you remember in the beginning of the year, we were very adamant about doing some temperature screening and really trying to be as a preventative measure, as a frontline measure to help kids as they were coming in and kind of identify those at-risk students. It was very recently after we started school that the CDC and some other institutions started saying that that may not be kind of a viable way to catch people or catch COVID or be something to stop the spread of COVID. Based on the most recent guidance, we are going to cease doing any type of temperature screening next year, as it's not recommended. I have the documentation from the CDC right now. It currently does not recommend schools conducting symptom screening of students K-12 on a routine or daily basis. So what we will be doing is we will keep reinforcing with the parents, as we have this year, to follow the suggested screener of looking for what symptoms, 2 in this column, 1 in that column, and monitoring their own students' health each day and keeping their children home if they are sick or symptomatic with any of those symptoms. We feel that this is the best way, since our families have been great about being upfront and honest and cautious and not bringing their kids in. Vaccinations, we have been ahead of the game in efforts to provide our staff and students with vaccinations. If you remember, we were able to offer through Atlantic Health System vaccinations for our staff members back in late March and April. We were then able to extend that to our senior students, again through Atlantic Health System, and currently the nurses and I are working with local pharmacies, including Walgreens, Rite Aid, whatever you want to call it over there, who does our flu clinic, to possibly set up a clinic for 12 to 16-year-old students within the district locally, where they can just go right in and set that up. So I feel that as information comes out, we will be sharing that with our Hawthorne families. Finally, appropriate accommodations with regards to health and safety for our students with disabilities or children with disabilities. Jessica and her team have really stayed on top of that, making sure that they are trained, that they have proper PPE, that we are utilizing every type of precaution necessary for some of our most at-risk students in our at-risk programs who may not be masked or may be more medically fragile. And some of those areas, you know, in our preschool and in our STEPS program require toileting. We are going to continue with the training that we have done with those paraprofessionals and teachers to provide them with adequate disposable one-time use PPE, gloves, face shields on top of masks when they are in a more vulnerable environment. And finally, we've been working with our 18 to 21 Bear Cave students to really work on their hygiene so that they can come back to preparing their meals within the Bear Cave for their lunches. Hopefully one day we can get back to the cafe. And we're also working with them on how they're going to work on these health and safety measures when they're out in their community-based instruction programs. Next, or really last, ensuring the continuity of services. So there's three main sections here. The academic needs, we're continuing to analyze and draft what we need to do academically. We're constantly collecting data, we're constantly collecting feedback, and we're trying to figure out how are we going to help these students, especially with the funds that we have received. I can tell you at this point what we've done already is we have increased staff for next year through some of these fundings. We're doing curriculum revisions with outside consultants to help us who specialize specifically in learning loss and learning gaps, as well as pacing guides. We're increasing our before and after school programs for targeted support, our tier 3 teacher on call programs. We're offering the summer school, and we're hoping that with our additional funding that this could be sustained possibly for another year. Our summer school has both credit recovery and skill enhancement. And it has been very successful. I can tell you, alone from Hawthorne High School right now, we have 55 in-person students who have agreed to attend. And that's without any reminders. That was with our initial send out of who is coming. As you know, and this will be further discussed at the June 22nd meeting, I get to join you again with Jessica and Christine Weger to share some of our social, emotional, and mental health initiatives for next year. Just to give you a quick highlight that I outlined in the plan. We are doing preschool to grade 5 staff. We're working on ACEs, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. All the research shows that COVID and the effects of COVID, whether it be people losing their home, parents losing their job, losing loved ones, seeing loved ones sick, can be considered a stark adverse childhood experience, and we need to be able, as an educational institution, deal with that effect when they come back into our classroom in September of 2021. Additionally, since the state is moving towards requiring this, Hawthorne's trying to be ahead of the curve, and we are going to implement the universal mental health screener as a pilot year for our 6 to 12 staff. We are partnering with a consulting company who will work with us to develop a crisis team, as well as administer the screener in real time to our 6 through 12 student population, collect the data as the kids are answering this, and immediately target those kids, because you don't want to have to wait a couple of weeks if you identify something through this depression screener. Finally, we were able to add 2 full-time crisis counselors to our 1 full-time at Lincoln Middle School, 1 full-time at Hawthorne High School through West Bergen, because we feel that the needs of these students is going to be exemplified when we come back. And the most exciting part of this is how we are going to bring our friends back for lunches. I'm super excited for this. It's so lonely when we walk around the building sometimes, and there's there's nobody there. I went to field day at Washington the other day and it was great. You saw kids running around. I need to do that again. This is a quick overview, and as I said, this is particularly right now with the guidance that's set forth. Our guidance is based on DOE guidance, New Jersey guidance, in K-12 recommendations under large spaces where food is served, as well as the federal, I think it was like the EDC Volume 2 guidance that was put forth by the federal government. For elementary, we are, some of the schools will be adding a third lunch period. I believe Roosevelt already had 3 lunch periods. What we're doing is we're putting 2 grade levels eating at a time. So in kindergarten and first grade, kindergarten will eat for the first half of the lunch, first grade will be outside. We will swap them. That will give us adequate time to spread out students if we need to, and sanitize in between. It will also help us when we're distributing the lunches to make sure that we do that in an orderly fashion. In Jefferson and Roosevelt, at this time, we are going to have the students eat in their classrooms so that we do not disrupt the physical education classes. Because of our limited space in those buildings, we do not have the space to house a full grade level with the requirements right now, and turn around the clean time in our current lunch periods without decreasing our instructional time. So they're used to being in their classrooms, K-5, in those rooms. We're gonna hire some non-instructional support aides to assist with that, and other things that are needed in the transition to next year. And we already have some plans of what that will look like on inclement weather days and how we will bring those recess kids outside. I know at both buildings, the pandemic response teams were very adamant that in the beginning of the year, those classroom teachers or those classroom aides will be bringing the students outside to eat as well. So they're not going to be confined in that room. And if you think about it, they eat snack in there, they're already spaced appropriately, and they're in their little pod or cohort. At Washington, we're lucky enough to have the large all-purpose gymnasium room. Mrs. Spinelli is able to house her entire grade level in there, and she is already, even with decreasing the number of students at a table. So we are 100% confident that we will be able to meet the guidelines, the current guidelines in September, and eat with kids distance properly at the table. Again, in inclement weather days, we will use our larger spaces for recess, such as the media center, art rooms, and stuff like that. Lincoln Middle School, again, is going to do their 3 lunches. They are going to assign students to lunch tables. They were able to set up their cafeteria in a way, and I don't know if they had more tables that they normally didn't use, or if they have gotten more tables. They were able to decrease the number of students that they're putting at a table by about 50%. They're going to have assigned lunch tables for a certain amount of time so that if we do have to contact trace or look, that we will be able to do that. And they're going to do the swap also. So they feel that the way that they could set up the cafeteria now, they are confident in serving lunch. And a little change to Hawthorne High School is we are switching or adjusting our schedule back to what we have had previously, to the 1 period unit lunch. So the whole school will shut down for about that 47 to 50 minutes in the middle of the day rather than the 2 staggered lunch. What that does is it opens up a lot of spaces for us to house our largest building. Our seniors will continue to have off-campus privileges. Our juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, and anybody who doesn't go off campus can eat lunch in the main caf, 123, the gymnasium. We will have other satellite areas set up. On nice days, we're going to really push for the courtyard and down on the bleachers to be outside. We are also having a meeting next week with Pontoni and our food services. We are going to set up satellite stations so that when you pre-order your lunch, you pre-order your lunch for a pickup location. So if you're eating in 123, you're grabbing your lunch in 123. If you choose to eat in the gymnasium, we will have some type of satellite station set up over there. We will also do all pre-ordered, prepaid, so there will be no exchange. It will be on the counts. It will be kind of moneyless, which is great. There will also be an area for kids who forget to order their lunch with prepackaged stuff ready to go. One of the things that we think is really important is that in the beginning, as we transition to this, we are going to stick with that kind of grab-and-go style lunch until we kind of get the transition of what distribution is going to be like. We will have hot lunches, but they will be pre-ordered and pre-packaged. So it's not only going to be grab-and-go cold. We're going to work with Pontonian to have stuffs that are warm, but are wrapped up and kept in kind of the heaters and the lights until the kids come and grab them. Finally, if you look at the last page, literally this is just the public comment portion. I will be happy to answer any questions from the board, and then we will be posting this tomorrow morning on the district site. Both the plan and this presentation, as well as the email address to submit comments. The public will have comments to submit up until June 15th. One of the nice things which is outlined in the plan is that when it is posted, anything that is posted on our website is able to be translated into any of the languages. If you do that language tab right on the top left of the main homepage, if you change that, any of the documents that are attached to that page can be translated to a language. So when we say, if we decide to send a message out about this being there or whatever we decide to do, it will be there for all to kind of read and understand. Any questions? I think Dr. Morale said she had a question.
Thank you. Sorry, Dr. Tribuna. Regarding the high school one lunch, and I'm sorry if it feels like I'm yelling at you.
No, please do.
Okay.
Why don't we have take that microphone and so we have her available?
Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, Dr. Dr. Tribuna, a question about the high school one lunch schedule. How does that affect the school schedule? Is this the same schedule that the high school had a couple of years back when it had the one lunch, or is it being revised in terms of how many courses are being offered?
It is still the rotate drop 6-period day, 8-period schedule. The transition is currently we have like lunch A and lunch B, so you have that you would do 3 blocks in the morning, and then that third block ends up being a longer block that has lunch A and lunch B in it. Now you will have your set, let's say periods 1, 2, 3, stop, lunch for the entire building, including staff members as well. There are a lot of benefits to this besides COVID-related lunches. After that period, go back, and then 3 blocks in the afternoon. So it's still the rotate block, similar to what we had, I guess, well, about 4, it was prior to me being here, but it was about 4 years ago.
Okay. Do you think that we're committing to this for the year regardless of, okay, so
No.
we will.
So, big disclaimer, with the guidance right now, Roosevelt, I don't want to give up the gymnasium, and Jefferson, we're a little tight with preschool. So we're anticipating the guidance to change between June 9th and August 31st. So I anticipate many revisions to this plan. And each revision, we will update you, we will update the public, we will post those revisions. We are required to update it every, I believe, 60 days or so when new guidance comes out. We will continue to do that throughout the summer. But part of this safe return guidance is that you need to submit something by June 24th. So our mindset was we're gonna go with what the guidance is right now if we needed to open tomorrow. But like, full disclaimer, this is a fluid document. This is draft 1 that's written in pencil.
Sorry, one more question, Dr. Tribuna. In the discussions with school level administration, was there any discussion about possibly renting tents outside to have students eat? You know what I mean, like those white tents, I guess they're called, I don't know.
So we talked a little bit about that. We're not sure. Most of the schools weren't really looking for tents at this time. They felt that They were worried about if you have to do the drop side with the weather, what are we doing come November? Do we buy them? Do we purchase them? What is our insurance for them? Since they're permanent structures, do we have to do anything else with that? So at this time, we talked about it very briefly and then decided not to. But again, I think as we get more guidance, as we see what neighboring districts are doing, as we have more discussions, these options are always going to be on the table.
If I could just jump in, one of the concerns, I can share one of the concerns, not just from this district, but my colleagues, is that their insurance companies have expressed concern about putting up tents that are not properly installed, or, there could be an insurance issue, should the tent go over or something happens.
And permits.
It's not that we completely, take it off the table, but we're trying to do it without those additional instructions.
There's also a great shortage of them as well. There's a great shortage of them.
In committee, it came up. It's fine. In committee, it came up. My husband's district purchased them this year to use. In the district, they pretty much all year, so they sort of have the same growing pains. They purchased them, and then were told they didn't have the proper permits or insurance to put them up. So now they're purchasing sitting in their tent.
I think the biggest thing we have to keep in mind is the guidance is going to change. It's going to change. I don't think there's any question. Now, between now and September, this is going to look different than it does today. So.
Thank you and everyone involved in continuing to pivot and
We just go with it.
go with.
That's this year. Flexibility.
It doesn't look like, this looks like this took a lot of time and effort, and we're greatly appreciative.
Thank you. Again, you guys know where I am if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our report. Keep with your report, John.
All right, so continue with the meeting.
It was not.
It's on now.
So Abby, you got the mic, curriculum instruction, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Curriculum Instruction recommend the following resolutions: CI 1 through CI 5 on page 4, CI 6 through CI 15 on page 5, CI 16 through CI 25 on page 6, CI 26 through CI 34 on page 7, CI 35 through ATH 41 on page 8, carried over onto page 9. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second by Mr. Carr. Any discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. With reservation on CI 33, yes on everything else.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Calfar, back to you. Personnel, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. P42 through P44 on page 9. Please note we've removed P45 from the agenda. P46 through P57 on page 10. P58 through P64 on page 11. P65 through P69 on page 12, carried on to page 13. P70 through P73, also on page 13. P74 to P76 on page 14. P77 and 78 on page 15. And P98 through P100, P97, through P100 on page 23 on the addendum. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second by Mr. Totaro. Any discussion?
Yes, hold on. Ricky, on P100, extra duty coaching assignments, we're approving them for the entire year. or are we not?
No, so the only coaches that are on there are the fall coaches and the winter coaches.
Okay, I didn't see the
Yeah, no swing coaches right now. And we actually have some openings in our winter coaches on fall too. We have a couple of openings that I'm going to fill. The whole list is going to have to be reapproved. The reason I'm approving it tonight is because the fall coaches will actually start.
That I understand.
Yeah, late this month, so it's fall and winter, that's it.
But do you want to do the winter now? I mean, God forbid, we don't know what's going to be. If this comes back in some way, shape, or form, we're now obligated to pay if there are no winter sports. Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, look, the way I look at it is we were able to participate this year.
Okay.
So I feel confident.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have just one item.
Mrs. Breeder.
I just want to welcome Megan Graziano, who is our new math and science supervisor. She's here with us tonight. I don't know if this is considered hazing, making her sit through this heat tonight, but I just want to welcome you. I can tell you that through our interviews with the administrators and I, Mrs. Graziano was the unanimous candidate of the committee. So we're very happy. She's joining us from Clifton High School, and we're very happy to have her. Looking forward to her getting started in the district. So welcome. Yeah, sure.
Good evening, Good evening, everybody. I'll make this quick, I promise. I know it's very warm, but I just want to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Megan Graziano, and I am absolutely ecstatic to be joining your district. And I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank Superintendent and Dr. Tribona for approving me this evening along with the Board of Education. Thank you so much. I am absolutely delighted, and I cannot wait to begin working with the staff here at Hawthorne to make the educational experience the very best it can be for the students here. So thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you for coming out. Welcome. Yes.
I just have to say, being that this was a night that we also congratulated Governor's Educator of the Year, I can't let it slide, but I have to acknowledge that we just hired the Passaic County Teacher of the Year, Megan Graziano.
Roll call, please.
Abstain on P54 and 55. Yes to everything else.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Erica? Yes. Mr.
Yes. Mr. Turco, Finance and Administration, please.
Thank you, Mr. Clavijo. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Finance and Administration recommends the following resolutions. F79 on page 15 through F84 on page 16, A88 on page 17, and A89 on page 18. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Burrell? Yes. Mr. Toulouse?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Erica? Yes. Ms. Gov? Yes. Mr. Clavijo?
Yes. Mr. Turco, floor says with you. Claims, please.
Thank you, sir. CL 90 approved the June 2021 bill list. As recommended, the board approve the bill list for the month of June 2021. I move that the bills as listed for June be paid.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Toulouse?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Erica? Yes. Ms. Gov? Yes. Dr. Burrell? Yes. Mr. Clavijo?
Yes. Mr. Tatara, Buildings and Grounds, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendents of Schools, the Committee of Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions. BG 91 through BG 95 on page 19, continued on to page 20. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Palouse. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrenstraub?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Dr. Carl?
Yes.
Mr. Baloo? Yes. Mr. Trevino?
Yes. Policy listed under policy is going to be tabled. It'll be reported on Mr. Terran's report. Moving on to committee liaison reports. Mr. Carl, legislative, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Following pieces of legislation have now received final legislative approval and await action by Governor Murphy. Special education aging out. This bill will require boards of education to provide special education and related services to students exceeding their age of eligibility. This bill would extend eligibility by requiring school boards to provide the services included in an individualized education program, IEP, to students who reach the age of 21 during the 2020-2021 school year, the 2021-2022 school year, and the 2022-2023 school year, provided the parent of the student and the IEP team decide that the student requires additional services, including transition services. The robotics bill establishes a pilot program in the New Jersey Department of Education to support FIRST robotics programs in school districts. This bill directs the New Jersey Commissioner of Education to establish a 3-year pilot program that provides grant funding to encourage and support school districts to establish the For Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology FIRST nonprofit organization's robotics program and to participate in a FIRST robotics competition. The purpose of the pilot program is to motivate students to pursue education and career opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Suicide prevention student ID cards. This bill will provide the student ID cards for grades 7 through 12, have the telephone number for a suicide prevention hotline printed on the back of the card. STEM opportunities for young women and minorities. This bill directs the NJDOE in consultation with the Office of the Secretary of Higher Education and the Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology to develop and administer an outreach program to encourage young women and minorities to pursue post-secondary degrees in careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In developing and administering the outreach program, the NJDOE is to provide elementary and secondary school students, especially young women and minorities, with opportunities to increase their exposure in the STEM fields. Among other goals, the bill aims to establish a STEM mentoring program and create programs to increase the recruitment and retention of underrepresented faculty in STEM subject areas. The following bills have been passed to full assembly and head to the Senate for further consideration. Student retention. This bill permits parents or guardians to request the students repeat a grade during the 21-22 school year. Parents of students in grade K through 8 will have the opportunity to submit a written request seeking the retention of their students to the principal by June 30th. The request must be evaluated by the school counselor, IEP team, or child study team to determine whether retention will meet the needs of the student. The Work Readiness Training Incentives Bill, entitled the New Jersey Works Act, provides a financial incentive for businesses to establish pre-employment and work readiness programs in partnership with institutions of higher education, comprehensive high schools, county vocational schools, and nonprofit organizations. Under the bill, a business entity may receive a credit against corporate business tax or gross income tax for 100% of any financial assistance provided to support a qualified pre-employment and work readiness training program approved by the State Employment and Training Commission. Regional reapportionment. This bill requires apportionment of membership on certain regional district boards of education to be based on the amount of district costs apportioned to each constituent municipality. This bill concerns the membership of the Board of Education of a regional school district in which a reapportionment of costs among the constituent municipalities has been determined by the New Jersey Commissioner of Education, not the voters of the district. Under these circumstances, the regional district will apportion the membership of its Board of Education based on how the costs of the regional district are shared among the constituent municipalities, except that each constituent municipality would have at least one member on the board. The following measures were approved by the full Senate and moved to the Assembly. Special Education Unit. This would create a Special Education Unit within the Office of the Administrative Law and require an annual report. The Special Education Unit would consist of administrative law judges having expertise in special education law. Under the bill, all contested cases concerning special ed law referred to the OAL would be assigned to be adjudicated by the administrative law judges in the Special Education Unit. Use of reserve funds during emergencies. This bill allows districts to use capital reserve funds to support the general fund. The circumstances in which this will be allowed is when schools are closed for at least 3 consecutive days due to a declared public health emergency, a state of emergency, or a directive by the appropriate health agency or officer to institute a public health related closure. The reserve funds can be used for expenses related to emergency or expenses incurred in connection with a transition to and use of virtual or remote instruction. If enacted, the bill will be retroactive to March 18th, 2020. Teacher diversity package. The following bills are aimed at increasing diversity in the state's education workforce, preventing teacher shortages, and cultivating inclusive learning environments. Bill S-2826 directs the NJDOE to establish a 5-year pilot program for the issuance of limited certificates of eligibility with advanced standings and limited certificates of eligibility. The limited CEAS and limited CE would be available to individuals who may not meet one of the general requirements and who are seeking employment in a school district. Following 2 effective or highly effective evaluations, the teacher would be eligible for a standard instructional certificate. Bill 2827 would require teachers to complete 2 hours of professional development related to cultural competence in every 2-year period as part of their existing professional development requirement. The instruction must include a discussion of personal and interpersonal awareness and sensitivities, acts of microaggression in the classroom, and implicit bias. S-2829 would establish a 3-year male teachers of color mentorship pilot program. Under the program, the New Jersey Commission of Education would select 10 male students of color from state public higher education institutions to work with 10 male teachers of color from participating schools. In that way, each student would be paired with a current teacher who would serve as a student's mentor through the candidate's last year of his educator preparation program and the first 2 years of the student's teaching career. S-2030 would require educator preparation programs to report passing rates of students who complete certain tests and disseminate information on test fee waiver programs. The bill will also permit the collection of student fee for certain testings. Expedited alternate route certification. Bill S-3253 would require the State Board of Education to authorize an alternate route to expedite the certification of persons to teach grades 7 through 12 in an early college high school. The alternate route will consist of 3-tiered certificate programs similar to the alternate route provided for charter schools. This certification will be used only for employment in early college high school, not any other public school. Remote instruction training. Sorry guys, this is the last one. Bill S-3469 requires teacher certification candidates to have a completed course on virtual or remote education. The course will include revising curriculum for online platform, the most effective tools available for content delivery, creating opportunities for students' engagement and discussion, building and sustaining community and connection with and among students, and delivering assessments online and monitoring academic progress. That completes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Passaic County School Boards Association, they had their last meeting remote last month. I would imagine that their upcoming meetings are going to be in person. We'll report on them once they are announced. Ms. Goff, NJSBA and Curriculum and Instruction, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a reminder to my fellow board members to complete the CSA evaluations Mr. Sprito has completed his if you haven't done so already. If you have any questions, you can ask Mr. Clavillo or myself, but the instructions were sent in an email to us last week, I believe. As far as curriculum instruction, the last time we met was Tuesday, June 1st at 5:30. We met virtually. The first topic of discussion was summer school. Dr. Trebona gave us many of these updates already, so I won't be redundant. We then spoke about Link It, which is a new platform we are piloting for next year. Dr. Trebona was in conversations with Chad Marcus. We will be contracting with them moving forward, trying to do a multi-year contract, staging ourselves in. Year 1 would be mostly utilized by the admin and the data teams. We won't be using their assessments year 1. We're still maintaining the Renaissance assessments that we used this year. And that platform will integrate with our Renaissance data. The next order of business was the ARP and ESSER 3 funds. As Dr. Trebona shared this evening, the safe return to in-person instruction. Also the Steve Fields Day presentations, that the universal screeners for all of the different levels that we'll be piloting next year. There was also a one-to-one update. There was a meeting in May to review the first year plans for incoming. The plan is for incoming 6th and 9th graders to receive new devices. They're collecting the devices from the 8th and 12th graders at graduation rehearsals. The tech team will clean them up and then redistribute them back out. And we will transition many of those devices down to the elementary schools for their use. There was also a question brought up about kindergarten registration. It's been happening online. It has been going smoothly. Numbers look good. They did not do orientation at this time, but they will be communicating that out to the public, and we'll do something, a meet and greet in late August with the teachers. And that was it.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Mr. Palouse, anything on HEF, CPAC, or PTOs?
Sure, thank you, Mr. President. Jefferson School is going to be hosting a movie night. The original date, I believe, was June 11th, and it's been switched to June 18th. And I also believe the movie is Enchanted. You can find more information on their Facebook page. At Lincoln Middle School, we're encouraging you to sign up for Amazon Smile and select Lincoln Middle School PTO Inc. You can pick that as your charity, and any purchases you make, a small donation will go towards Lincoln Middle School. You can go to smile.amazon.com, or again go to the Lincoln Middle School PTO Facebook page for more information. At Roosevelt School, a fundraiser coming up on June 12th is a Tricky Tray walkthrough ticket drop, and they are also continuing their ShopRite gift card. If you want any more information, again, go to their Facebook page. And rounding off the PTO stuff here, at Washington School, it's more of a call to action. There's a GoFundMe page and a Take Them a Meal page for Erica Torres' family. Due to a car accident, the family is in need of a little bit of assistance. So if anyone could go, again, to Washington School page, I believe it's Washington School page and also the PTO page, and there's a GoFundMe and a Take Them a Meal option. So again, that is all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palouse. Mr. Tataro, your reports, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We'll start off with Building and Grounds. On June 2nd, Building and Grounds Committee conducted a virtual meeting to discuss the following items. One, the improvements there will be improvements made in room 116 at Jefferson. As soon as school ends, this will include modifications to the existing drain line in the restrooms with a new toilet and epoxy flooring. This is intended to be done over the summer. Second, UV lighting installation. All the nurses' offices throughout the district have been installed. Commissioning will take place, or has taken place on 3rd and 4th last week to instruct staff on how to utilize them. The system is designed to have a fail-safe and only goes on when no one is in the room. Next, the automated logic is to be installed at Jefferson and Hawthorne High School to bring the boiler rooms up to date. As previously reported a few years back by the B&G Committee, the boiler rooms at Jefferson and Hawthorne High School were replaced on an emergency basis. This upgrade will allow visibility throughout our building management system to assist in maintaining the boilers and be notified of any issues. Fourth item is asphalt repair district-wide. There are various repairs required at each school. We're currently obtaining pricing from contractors to perform these repairs. And lastly, we are also obtaining pricing to replace the countertops in LMS art room and new vanity in the teacher's room. Next, in regards to my council liaison report, by the way, this is great to have the fan by me, but not for my paper right now. For my council liaison report, there was nothing to report to the BOE, but we would like to extend congratulations to all the scholarship award winners. And lastly, regarding policy, Mr. Clavijo mentioned earlier, we have tabled the postnatal accommodations for further review based on some of the verbiage that we are going to be going back to our district attorney about. And also, yesterday when the committee met, we discussed the social media policy for the board members, which we are currently reviewing and plan to present to the board for review and consideration. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Turco, Finance and Administration, please.
Since I was unable to attend, Mr. Palouse will report.
All right, thank you. As Mr. Turco said, we did have a meeting on June 1st. He was unable to attend, so I took some brief notes. Year-end balances for maintenance and capital reserve. Right now, we don't have finalized numbers, but once we do, we're going to be allocating any savings that we had in the previous budget to both maintenance and capital reserve. Also, on the surplus side, typically we're allowed to have a 2% surplus. This year, they're allowing us to maximize it at 4%, so we're doubling up the surplus. We don't know if that's going to be ongoing or just for this budget year, so we'll update you more in the future once we know more. And lastly, school lunches have increased 10 cents this year, which is still, puts us in a very reasonable cost for our lunches. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public be heard. As a reminder, when submitting questions or comments via email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and your question. Mr. Spear, do you have any emails?
So yes, we have one email, an email address. The email was actually sent on Monday, and I'm not gonna, it's an extensive email in regard to masking concerns, masks in schools. Again, because the email was sent on Monday, I'm hoping that, the communication that was sent out today will address the concerns in the email. I will share it with the board just so you can see the email. I'll forward it to the board members to read. But again, it was sent prior to my communication going out today, and I'm confident that the concerns that were expressed in regards to masks in schools have been addressed in our new procedures. So that's all.
Thank you. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close out the public be heard portion of the meeting. At this point, we'll go around the room if anybody has any new business. Any board members have any new business? No. What about old business? Any old business?
Yeah, thank God we're getting air conditioning here.
All right, no old business. Any general comments and questions from the board related to the school district? Ms. Goff?
I would just like to say congratulations again to our teachers of the year. As someone who's in a school building every single day, arguably the most difficult of anyone's career this year has been. I think every single teacher, faculty member, custodian, every single person who is a member of this village that need to keep the building going and the district going deserves commendation. It has truly been an extraordinary year, and I am so happy to be a part of this, and I'm proud of Hawthorne, and I'm so grateful as a parent, not only a board member, to everybody who plays a part in it.
Here, here. Anybody else? No, see no one? Private session be resolved that the Hawthorne Board of Education convenes an executive session to discuss exempt matters pertaining to HIV. Be resolved that its anticipated executive session will be for about 15 minutes in duration and that public action may not be taken. Be further resolved that the minutes of executive session will be made available upon a determination by the board that the disclosure of the minutes will not detrimentally affect any right or interest of the board, and the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Motion to go into private. At that discussion, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you for coming out.